Hi there. Welcome to BoomerTube's podcast, the place for baby boomers to come play with your own age group. I'm Deb, and I'm your host. And welcome to another episode of The Year Was, a fun episode we do occasionally that focuses on a particular year. A year somewhere between 1946, the first semi-official year of boomers, and 1980. We chose 1980 because 1, it includes the 70s decade, and 2, it puts the last boomers born in 64 in at around 16 or so. So, here we go. See if you can guess what year we're talking about before the end of the episode. How much did things cost during this year? Well, the average cost of a new house was around $12,400. The average yearly wage was around $5,000. The cost of a gallon of gas was 25 cents. The average cost of a new car was around $2,200. A movie ticket cost $1. A loaf of bread 20 cents. A Kodak movie camera $67.50, and ladies' stockings were $1. This is a pretty easy one because it was a big year. A lot happened. Fidel Castro came to power in Cuba after the revolution. Mattel brought Barbie dolls to store shelves for the first time. Alaska became the 49th state and Hawaii the 50th. In May, 2 monkeys became the first living creatures to survive a spaceflight. And NASA introduced the Mercury 7, and America's first astronauts to the world. U.S. Vice President Richard Nixon and the Soviet Union's Premier Nikita Khrushchev engaged in an impromptu debate on July 24th. The exchange took place at a U.S. trade show being held in Moscow and became known as the Kitchen Debate, as the two leaders argued the merits of capitalism and communism while standing in front of a model of a modern kitchen displayed for the American National Exhibition. The whole encounter was filmed by American press and aired in both nations. Here are a few more highlights. The St. Lawrence Seaway, a joint U.S.-Canadian venture, was completed, linking the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean. The United States Navy launched the Vanguard 2 weather satellite. The Guggenheim Museum, designed by Frank Lloyd Wright in New York City, was completed. Hudson and Nash merged in January to become AMC, or American Motors Association. Qantas introduced the Boeing 707 on its Sydney to San Francisco route, the first transportation service flown by jet. IBM shipped the transistor-based IBM 1401 mainframe. Xerox launched the first commercial copier. The far side of the moon was seen for the first time, courtesy of USSR's Luna 3 space probe. In the NBA, the Boston Celtics swept the Lakers in 4 games, the first of Boston Celtics' record 8 straight titles. The last musical from Rodgers and Hammerstein's Sound of Music opened on Broadway. And speaking of the Sound of Music, what was happening in pop culture? The film Ben-Hur premiered. The iconic award-winning film premiered in November, starring legendary actor Charlton Heston, who won Best Actor for his performance. At the time of its production, the movie had the largest budget of any movie ever made, with an estimated $15.9 million spent. It also had some of the largest sets ever created at the time. Ben-Hur was a huge financial and critical success and won 11 Academy Awards. Other popular films included Some Like It Hot, Anatomy of a Murder, North by Northwest, and Sleeping Beauty. And this year wouldn't be complete if we didn't mention Planet Nine from Outer Space, Some say literally the worst movie ever made. Weird tingly moment here. As I was typing my notes for the podcast, the Timinator, out of nowhere, mentioned the exact same thing about Planet Nine as I typed it, at the same exact moment. And speaking of weird tingly moments, on TV, The Twilight Zone premiered. Wow, that segued nicely. The iconic science fiction series aired for the first time in October. It was created and hosted by the talented screenwriter Rod Serling. The Twilight Zone still ranks as one of the most unique and best-written TV shows in history. The show consisted of sci-fi and supernatural mysteries and featured many then unknown actors who would later become famous, like Ron Howard, Dennis Hopper, Robert Redford, and William Shatner. It came on later at night where I live, so it was dark and quiet when I watched it. Creepy! Other popular TV shows that debuted in this year included Bonanza, the first weekly television series broadcast completely in color. Rawhide debuted along with the Bell Telephone Hour. Other notable series included Dennis the Menace, Hawaiian Eye, The Untouchables, and Quick Draw McGraw, one of my personal favorites. Celebrities born during this year include Jason Alexander, Simon Cowell, and Hugh Laurie, Tom Arnold, Danny Bonaducci, Marie Osmond, Weird Al Yankovic, John McEnroe, Magic Johnson, and Val Kilmer. This was the first year for the U.S. Grammy Music Awards, and some popular singers included Frank Sinatra winning Album of the Year, Doris Day, Connie Francis, Jim Reeves, Cliff Richard, Ella Fitzgerald, and Buddy Holly. And of course, probably the most well-known and sad event that occurred during this year was a very famous plane crash. The chartered plane transporting musicians Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the Big Bopper went down in an Iowa snowstorm, killing all 4 occupants on board. The tragedy later became known as the Day the Music Died and was popularized in Don McLean's song, American Pie. My sociology teacher in high school was good friends with Don, and my class was lucky enough to hear him perform live when he showed up one day during class. Pretty memorable. By now, I'm sure you've guessed that the year we're highlighting is 1959, a year full of technological advancements, turmoil, big movies, and heartbreak for the world of music. Thanks so much for playing along with our latest version of The Year Was. If you've listened to our previous podcast, you know we like to showcase original music written and performed by our listeners. We play this episode's song here, then post it at BoomerTube, where you can download it. The name of the artist and their contact information is posted there as well. This episode, we're excited to welcome back The Mystics. The Mystics are the Boise area's longest-running classic rock group. The group includes some of the Valley's best classic rock musicians, Lawson Hill, Rico Wiseman, Don Cunningham, and founding member and longtime newspaper columnist Tim Woodward. They have been a mainstay of the music scene in southern Idaho since the 60s, filling popular dance halls like the Miramar Ballroom and holding their own with other Idaho bands such as Dick Cates and the Chessmen and Paul Revere and the Raiders. The Mystics are the only Treasure Valley classic rock group with an original member and still playing the music they love, classic rock, plus some newer tunes to keep things interesting. The band's extensive repertoire includes hits from the 60s by the Beatles, Rolling Stones, the Byrds, Everly Brothers, CCR, Buffalo Springfield, and more. And because audiences are getting younger, newer hits by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, the Traveling Wilburys, and Huey Lewis and others have been added to their set list. I'm excited to share my hometown favorites with you, the Mystics, 5 decades later and still rockin'. Please listen to a cut from the Mystics' 2015 album Now and Then. and a hit for them during the 60s called Weekend People. You just heard Weekend People. A big thank you once again to Tim Woodward and the Mystics for sharing this hit with us. Doesn't get any more classic rock than that. We love to hear and play your original music, so I hope you're inspired to send us yours. We like to keep it classic like rock, country, or the blues, but if you've got a tune representing another genre or an instrumental, we would love to hear it. You'll find guidelines for submitting music to us at boomertube.com. Please make it a recording with a group or an instrument. Put on your best voice and let us help you showcase your work, because you never know who might be listening. Also, we would love to make your story a part of our podcast. If you have a unique, funny, or poignant anecdote about growing up, your teenage years, music, cars, dating, your parents, anything you think our listeners might enjoy, send it to us. We're boomers, and most of us were raised by the greatest generation, an exceptional group of people who deserve our enduring respect. And if you enjoyed our podcast, it would mean a lot to us if you would share it with your friends and family. Once again, the website is boomertube.com, and you can email me at deb@boomertube.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, come play with your own age group. Deb out.